And hi everyone, this is the video solutions for the multiple choice section to the 2018 Trial-HSC paper. And what I'm just doing here is just going to be the multiple choice questions. I'm not going to go through the free response questions now, simply just don't have time. It'll be way too long of a video. So I'll do the free response questions sometime early next week for that as well. But for now, we're just going through the multiple choice questions. So we'll just get right into it. First of all, this is actually kind of a trick question right at the start, which I think is pretty mean. But what we want to do is find how many sig figs there are in this number. Well, generally we do start the first non-zero number, which is 2, and we go to the last non-zero number. But one little quirk to this is, if there are any zeros at the end of a number, and there's like a decimal point in there as well, if there's any zeros at the end, they are also technically significant, because it counts for any rounding that might have happened with that decimal. So actually, the last significant figure is actually the 0. Therefore, there are 4 significant figures, so the answer is C. Next, we have this person record the number of goals that her netball team scored each game. So it's basically just a bunch of numbers. The question's asking what's the range of the goals. Well, the range, a bit simpler here. The range is biggest minus smallest. So the biggest is 52, the smallest is 24, and when you go ahead and subtract that, it equals 28. Very simple. The answer is B. And looking at question 3, this is another, I think it's a fairly tricky question because it's such a very minute detail for something that's very minute in chapter 14 on the basics certificate. But basically what basics is it rates a new place based on the water, the energy, and the thermal comfort. Now, a lot of people actually rate thermal comfort because it just looks different to all the other things, which is a decent guess. But in fact, actually, it's based on sustainability, not so much on cost. So the actual answer is cost. If you go onto Google and just search, just Google basics certificate, or building sustainability index certificate, you'll just get a sample up, and then you'll see on there are 3 sections. Each of those sections are for water, energy, and thermal comfort. So those are the 3 things that they talk about in it. So not kind of a trick question to start you off. Anyway, you're looking to the next page. We have which one of these graphs below shows 4 minus x squared. Now we can't really show it all on one page. I kind of. I might just write. Oh, actually, I'll make it. Okay, this one. So, which of these graphs shows 4 equals negative x squared? Well, straight away, we know it's a parabola because we've got the x squared, but that doesn't really help us in this particular question. What we next can see, if I just write it a bit bigger, we see that the thing in front of the x squared is a negative. So that immediately tells us it's going to be concave down, alright? So that means straight away it can either be B or D. So we just need to decide which one it's going to be. Is it going to be B or is it going to be D? Well, what we can do from there is if we just find like one point on the line, maybe if we find the y-intercept, then we can go ahead and find which one is going to be. So let's just make x equals 0 in this. Because if we're trying to make x equals 0, we'll find the y-intercept. So if we do y equals 4 minus 0 squared, that will just equal 4. So that means it will cut the y-axis at 4, not negative 4. So the answer is D, because we see that it's cutting it at 4 and it's got that concave down shape. Okay, so that's why it's D. It's not B because it's cutting it at negative 4. Alright, so that's that. So that's kind of just like recognizing the shape of the graph. If I go down to question 5 now. Here we have this person, Jenny, recent water bill with water usage of 525 litres per day, and for those 90 days she was paid at that rate. So what we want to do here is we're seeing that the rate is per kilolitres. So let's first of all find how much water she used in those 90 days in kilolitres. So the first thing we want to do, we have these 525 litres. That's going to be 0.525 kiloliters because I've divided it by 1,000. Kilo meaning 1,000. So that's for one day, but we see that she was charged for 90 days. So now we're going to times this by 90 to find the total amount of water that she used, which is 47.25 kiloliters. And now that you have 47.25 kiloliters, you see that she was charged at $2.28 per kiloliter. So now we just do 47.25 times by $2.28, which will give you $107.73. So the answer is B. Going to the next page now. So we have the wingspan of an airplane is 80 meters, and then we've got this model which is 16 centimeters, and we want to find the scale. So what we want to do is we want to compare this 16 centimeters to the 80 meters. To do that though, we first of all need to change that they're in the same unit. What we'll do is we might as well change that 80 meters into be centimeters. So to do that, we're going to times that by 100. So that will equal, not 100, 8,000 centimeters. Alright, so 80 meters equals 8,000 centimeters. Now that we've done that, that means our ratio is going to be 16 to 8,000, because that 16 is the model size, and then the 8,000 is the actual size. And so now we can simplify this ratio by dividing both sides by 16. So if you do 16 divided by 16, that equals 1. And we do 8,000 divided by 16, that equals 500. So now we have our ratio of 1 to 500, which is C. And just very quickly on this question, if instead you decided to make 16 centimeters be 0.16 centimeters, so that means we'd have the ratio of 0.16 to 80. And then again, if you simplify that by dividing both sides by 0.16, again, you'll get 1 to 500. So either way it works. It didn't need to be meters to centimeters. I could have changed the centimeters to meters and we've done the exact same thing. I'll go down to question 7 now. So new drug is being trialed on 200 people. The company believes that the drug will result in an 86% success rate. Here we need to read the question carefully. We want to see how many are not successful. So that's going to be 14%, because it's 100 minus 86. We're trying to find 14% of 200 people, which equals 28. So a fairly simple question. We're saying that 86 people will have success, means 14% won't have a success. You need to find 14% of 28. So if you set A, what you did is you found that 14% and immediately jumped at it, but you need to realize we'll do it for 200 people. Going down to question 8. We have like one of these data plan questions. So we're seeing that with this data plan we get 1 gigabyte of included data. So straight away we know that that's 1024 megabytes, not 1000. Remember that megabytes and gigabytes and all that kind of stuff, you're timesing by 1024, or 2 to the power of 10. So now that we have that, we see that this person used that much data. So we're going to see how much excess this person used, which equals 230 megabytes. So what we're seeing here is they got that first 1 gigabyte for free, but then they need to pay 7.2 cents for every megabyte over. So now we want to we found how much over we are. We now need to times that by 0.72 cents. Now you need to be careful here. It's 0.7, like it's 7.2 cents, not $7.2. So therefore, if we're going to change this into dollars, we're going to do 230 times $0 and $0.072. Okay, because we've got 7.2 cents, which when you put that in, gives you $16.56. So here's D. Going to question 9 on the next page. So here we have this sector, and with this sector, we've got the 50 degrees on the inside, we call that theta, and we have our radius of 8. Now the key thing you need to be careful here is we're not trying to find the arc length, although we will in a second. We do want to find what that is. I'm just going to call it L, but we're not just trying to find that. We're trying to find the perimeter. So let's go find this L first of all. This will be 50 over 360 times 2 times pi times the radius, which is 8, which equals approximately 7 centimeters. Alright, so if you just did that and immediately said, oh yeah, the answer is 7, there you go, it's A, you haven't read the question carefully. Again, it's so important that you read the question carefully. We want to find what the perimeter is. So now that we know that this is 7, we're just going to do that 8 plus that 8 plus 7. So 8 plus 8 plus 7 equals 23. Okay, so you need to add up all the sides because we're finding the perimeter. And as I go down to question 10, so doing this question, we're given this BMI with the equation mass divided by height in meters squared. So what we want to do here is we have this person who's 1.75 meters tall and weighs 76 kilos, and we need to describe their BMI. So basically we're going to calculate this person's BMI. So we're going to do 76 divided by 1.75 squared. When you put that into your calculator, you get approximately 24.816 ... like just keeps going on. And then we basically need to make a judgment in which group that it goes into. Well, 24.816, that's in this category, right? Because it's between 18.5 and 24.9. Like, it's very close to 24.9, but it is in that range. So therefore, this person is a healthy weight. So the answer is A. Going to question 11. So we want to find the equation of the line of this number plane. Basically, whenever you're trying to find the equation of the line, it always comes down to y equals mx plus b. Alright, that's what the equation of the line is, where m is the gradient and b is the y-intercept. But straight away, we can see that the y-intercept is 4, and now we just want to find the gradient. So we just want to pick 2 points in this line and just do rise over run. So starting at this point here, we can choose the 2 intercepts. So here, I've gone down 4, so here my rise equals -4, and then from there I've gone across 2, so my run equals equals 2. Sorry, so therefore my gradient equals -4 over 2, which equals -2. So I know my gradient is -2 and my y-intercept is 4, so therefore my equation is going to be y equals -2x plus 4, which is option A. Down to question 12. We need to kind of look at the probabilities and the relative frequencies and compare these two things. We're told that with this spinner, these are all equally sized, so therefore each of these options is 1 out of 5, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 5. And in this table on the right side is what happened after 100 spins. We just need to see which of these is correct. So first of all, we want to find the fault, like when we're talking about which one's correct for the even number. So theoretical probability is less than the relative frequency. Well, let's find them. For the theoretical probability, looking at the spinner, if we're trying to land on an even number, it can either be 0 or 4. So that's just 2 out of 5, alright, because there's 2 of those options. And as for the table itself, we're trying to count how many times either a 2 or 4 happens. So it'll be 21 plus 15, which equals 36 over 100. Okay? And if I were to change this into decimals as well, this will be 0.4, and this will be 0.36. So we can kind of see which one's like more likely. So here, this is the, by the way, this is the theoretical, and this is the relative frequency. Okay, so now we just need to see which one of these is true. For A, it's not true because we actually know, we can just by looking at it, the theoretical probability is greater than the relative frequency. So the answer is C. It's not D because we can definitely calculate the theoretical probability because we're told that they were equally sized. If we weren't told they were equally sized up here, then we wouldn't be able to find the theoretical probability. Anyway, going into question 13. So Here we have Amelia is a female weighing 68 kilograms. She wants to keep her blood alcohol content below 0.05. What is the maximum number of standard drinks she can consume over 3.5 hours? So what we're going to use here, seeing that this person is a female, so we can say that I'll just write down the blood alcohol content formula very quickly. For females, it's 10 times N minus 7.5 H over 5.5 M. So in this case, N is the amount of drinks, H is the amount of hours you've been drinking, and M is the mass of the person. So from there, let's go ahead and put in these numbers, except this time we don't know what the amount of drinks we're trying to find. We are trying to find the amount of drinks. Rather than this, we don't know how many drinks we've had. We do know how many hours we were drinking. We do know how much this person weighs, and we know the blood alcohol content we want to get. So let's just put all this information into the formula. So we have 0.05 equals 10 times N. N's the thing we're trying to find. Minus 7.5 times 3.5. So when you do 7.5 times 3.5, it gives you 26.25 over 5.5 times her mass. So 5.5 times 68 equals 374. So now I just need to solve this equation that I've got and created. So from here, I'll just continue up here to save space. First thing I want to do, ideally, when we're trying to solve this, we want to get rid of the thing that's furthest away from the N first. So we can either get rid of the 10, the 26.25, or the 374. We'll multiply by 374 first. This gives me 18.7 equals 10N minus 26.25. After that, we'll add 26.25 on both sides, giving me 44.95 equals 10N. And now what I can do is divide both sides by 10, giving me 4.495 equals M. So what that means is up to 4 drinks would be fine, but before we get halfway through that next drink, we'd be over that limit. So that means the maximum amount of drinks would be 4 drinks. Because anything more than half of that, you go too far. Like saying 4.4 isn't an option either, so we'll just say 4. Going into this next question, we have this triangle and we want to find the size of angle BAC. So we're looking at this angle here. I'm just going to call that theta. And this is just a pretty stock standard cosine rule. So let's just put this information in. So let's say cos theta equals, now remember when you're doing this, there's 3 sides we need to talk about, but only one of them is going to be subtracted. The one that we subtract is going to be the one that's opposite the angle that we're trying to do. So here we'll do 40 squared plus 60 squared minus 85 squared. So it doesn't really matter which one you do first, either the 40 or the 60, but that minus 85 has to be at the end. Okay, so you could have just as easily done 60 squared plus 40 squared minus 85 squared gives you the same thing. And this will be over 2 times 40 times 60. When you go ahead and put all of that into your calculator, you get, so we still got cos theta equals negative 2025 over 4,800. And once we've done that, we want to find theta by itself. So what you're not going to do is just do cos of that. You need to do inverse cos. Remember, whenever you're trying to find the angle, you have to press shift cos or inverse cos. So say therefore theta equals the inverse cos of that same fraction. We don't need to simplify it, although you could do so. And then when you put that into your calculator, you get about 115 degrees. So that's your answer. You can tell straight away, by the way, just looking at the diagram, even though it does say not to scale, you can easily see that that angle is an obtuse angle. So straight away, you know it can't be A, it can't be B, it's either got to be C or D. And then, so if you were just having a completely random guess, at least you can make it a 50-50 rather than a 25% chance. And by the way, you can do that with almost all of these questions. I'm not going to be talking about it too much, but a good exercise for you is actually to try to do that. Try to eliminate the one straight away, and then you can like pick out one or two. Anyway, going to this next question, we have this idea of this person wants to plan a trip in 5 years' time, and she needs $12,000 for that trip. How much money does she need to put in now? So this is a present value question. So with the present value, we're going to do 12,000. Sorry, that's how much they need to make over, and this is on the formula sheet. And then it's just like the reverse, like it's compound interest with division. So it'll be 1 plus. And before I do anything else here, you also need to read the question a bit carefully, making sure that we're looking for the most important words. In this case, every quarter is the most important 2 words, meaning we're going to have to change our years into quarters. We need to change our rate into quarters. So here we have 4.8% per annum. Well, that's going to be 1.2% per quarter because we're dividing by 4. And here we have 5 years. So 5 years is 20 quarters. Alright, so I did 5 times 4 equals 20, and I did 4.8 divided by 4. So now that I have that, I can do 1.2 over 100, so power of 20, which equals approximately 9,453. I'm making sure you're looking at rounding. You see that C is 9,492. Oh, never mind, that's not even close then. You just got to look, just to make sure you're looking at rounding, but none of them are very close to it. And yeah, so just need to realize that we do need to change the rate. Oh, sorry, that's not power 2, it's power 20, my mistake. But the calculation, like the answer will still be the same. So because it's 20 quarters and it's 1.2%. Going on to question 16. So this question 16, we've just given this graph, one for income, one for costs. So a pretty basic interpreting linear relationships question. And so if 150 sausages are sold, which of the following statements is correct? So that means we want to be looking across on the x-axis at 150. So basically along where I've made that red mark. So which of the following statements is correct? First of all, if the club is losing $110, well, at this point, by the time it gets to here, like this is the break-even point, and then if you remember anything to the right of that, we see that the income is greater than costs. So straight away, that means we're going to be making a profit, not a loss. So it can't be that. It can't be that. Straight away, we're going to cross out 2 incorrect ones. And now we need to decide whether we're making a profit of $300 or if we're making a profit of $109. Now, we can't exactly calculate that exactly, but you can know it's not going to be 300. Looking at the line, even though it is cutting at about 300, so you might be tempted to say it's 300, but we're not saying we're making $300 in income, we're making a profit of $300, which isn't correct because we need to still cover the costs. So here the cost looks like it's about 110, like a little bit above 100. So if you did 300 minus 110, you've got $190. So that's the answer there. Question 17. Here we have this car salesman which has a commission rate by stages. So what they're saying here is we've got 2.5% for the first 8,500 in sales, and then 1.5% for everything after that. So what we need to do here is split into 2 parts. So first $8,500 and everything left over. So let's just find how much over we went. So 1,750 minus 8,500, and that equals 4,250. So what that means is we're now going to find 2.5% of that first 8,500, and then we're going to find 1.5% of that remaining 4,250. And when you find both of those things and you add them up, you get about $276.25. You can just do that all in one big calculation on your calculator, or just do it one at a time and add up your 2 answers. Either way, you'll get the same answer, which is $276.25. Looking at question 18 now. So this is just pretty much a stock standard future value table question. except again we need to change a few numbers. So here the two most important words are every 6 months. So from that, that we're doing it 6 monthly, then that's 4% per annum. Well, that's 2% per every 6 months. So it's 2% for every half year. And then if that's 2 years, well, now it's going to be 4 half years. So here n equals 4. We're looking at 2%. So we're going to look at 4 periods of 2%. We're looking at that interest factor. So now that we have that, we're just going to get our $1,750. So 1,750. We're going to times it by 4.1216, which equals about 7212.80, which gives us the answer C. Going to question 19. Here we have a box and whisker plot, and we're trying to, so we have 160 students kind of shown in this box and whisker plot. How many students spent 15 hours or less driving last week? So what we want to do here is 15, which is here. So we need to realize that here's the 0% mark, here's the 25% mark, here's the 50% mark, 75% mark, 100% mark. So at this point, it's tempting to say, oh yeah, the answer is B because it's 75. But you need to realize that's like the 75% mark, but we didn't interview like 100 people. We've got interviewed 160 people. So what we need to do now is, because we're trying to see 15 hours or less, so like we're trying to see how many people in here. So we're going to find 75% of 160, which equals 120. So that's your answer. Going to question 20. A car was originally purchased for $42,000 and depreciates in value by 17.5% each year. By how much has it depreciated after 2 years? Now here's a very important bit in this question. This is why it's question 20. It's not asking what's its value after 2 years. It's asking how much is it depreciated after 2 years. So we are still going to need to find the value, but that's not going to be the answer. That's going to be like the dummy answer. That's actually going to give you the answer for C. You'll see in a second. But we're trying to see how much did it go down by. So let's go ahead and put this into our depreciation formula, which is basically like compound interest except with a minus. So this is going to be 4,200 times 1 minus 17.5 over 100, so power of 2, which equals $28,586.25. But again, that's not what the answer is. And if you said C, that's because, again, you didn't read the question carefully enough, or you kind of just rushed it, okay? The question is not asking what the value is. The question is asking how much did it depreciate by. So therefore, we have to get the original amount and then subtract it by that value, which gives you 13,413.75 cents, which is that. Alright, so just one little trick there. I mean, the actual calculation isn't too hard, but just realizing you need to subtract it at the end. You can do that by just reading the question a bit more carefully. Here we have find the expression which is equivalent to blah blah blah. I'm not sure if you can see clearly on this, but this is a division sign. Alright? So when we're dividing fractions, remember what we can do. In fact, the best way to do this is to flip that second fraction and then just do it with a multiplication instead. So let's just write that down first. So we have 16tm over 2c. So that first fraction does not change, but the second fraction will change. We just flip it. Now, some people would now go ahead and say, oh, now you do cross multiply and you cross out a few things. You can do that, but I think that actually makes it a bit more tricky. What we can just do now is just put this into one fraction by just multiplying the top and multiplying the bottom. That makes it that much easier. So 4 times 16, that equals 64. And now we have the t, we have the m, we have the C, and now we have 2 times 1, which is still just 2, C and M, and now we can simplify this. So first of all, 64 divided by 2 equals 32, and that becomes just the 1. The M's cancel out and the C's cancel out, leaving me with just 32t over 1, but when it's just over 1, you can just get rid of that completely. So we just got 32t, which is the answer. Going to question 22. This is actually quite a bit of a tricky one, this one. But we're told that a patient is allowed to have 2,000 milligrams over a 24-hour period. The concentration of the medication is 250 milligrams, 6 mils, and needs to be taken 3 times a day. So right now, they're not getting the most amount that they can. So if the patient is to receive the maximum daily dose, how many milliliters of medication should be taken in each dose? So we have quite a bit of information here, but what we want to do first of all is we know that we can at most have 2,000, and medication is given in 250 increments. So let's find how many increments that is. So let's do 2,000 divided by 250, which equals 8. So that means we can have 8 lots of that. And then so now we know that each of those lots is 6 milliliters. So let's find how much milliliters in total that is. So we have 8 times 6 milliliters, and that would equal 48 milliliters. So what we're saying here is, if in every 6 milliliters there's 250 grams, then we can have 2,000 milligrams in total. Therefore, that total amount of medication we're allowed to have is 48 milliliters. And so now we're saying that we're told that it's taken 3 times a day. So rather than just having 6 milliliters a day, let's find the most amount we can have. So let's just do that 48 divided by 3, because it's 3 times a day, which equals 16 milliliters. And once we have that 16 milliliters, we've gone and found our answer. So what we're saying here is, if we were to go up to the maximum amount of medication we have, how many milliliters of medication could I have in each of those 3 times? Going to question 23 now. This is also a fairly tricky question. We're told that the capacity of the cone, or which is basically the same as the volume, is 2 liters. Okay. Seeing that our measurements are in centimeters, though, we know one of the conversions we have is 1 centimeter cubed, which is 1 milliliter. Equals 1 milliliter. So why don't we change these 2 liters that we have here? We have 2 liters equals 2,000 milliliters. The reason why we've done that is because we know that the height of this cone is in centimeters. So that means we've probably seen that we want to get something with centimeters cubed. It means we should probably work in milliliters to start off with. So if we were to what we want to do is talk with the volume of this cone. The way to find the volume of this cone, or the capacity of this cone, just remember quickly, it's 1/3 times the area of the base times the height. So what we can do from here, well, we know that the volume needs to be 2,000, so we'll just 1/3 times the area of the base. So the area of the base, well, this is just a circle, so it'll be times pi times r squared, and then we're timesing it by the height, which is 25. And so now we have this equation we want to solve. Well, what I'll do first is I'll multiply both sides by 3 to get with 1/3. I can just divide both sides by 1/3, which gives me 6,000 equals pi times r squared times 25. After that, I could divide both sides by 25, so 6,000 divided by 25. And then I could also just divide by pi at the same time, I might as well. So we have 6,000 divided by 25 pi, which equals r squared. So we're close to it, but I don't care what r squared is, I want what r is. So the opposite of squaring a number is square rooting it. So therefore, I have r equals the square root of 6,000 over 25 pi. So about 25 pi. And once you put that into your calculator, you get about 8.74 ... which is the answer C. So quite a bit to that, but I mean, we're getting to question 23 now. These are like band 5, band 6 questions, so they are supposed to be a bit tricky here. Going into these last two questions, here we have Sam's results for his half-yearly assessment tasks are recorded in this table, and just go from there. So what we want to do is, in which subject did he get the best standardized result? So standardized result, that's like a standardized score, which we know is the Z-score. And the way that we can find the Z-score, it's their score, so X, minus the mean, so X bar, over the standard deviation, which is S. And all that information has been told in this table. We're told that Sam's result, so that's the X. We're told the mean, which is X bar, and we're told the standard deviation, which is S. So what we want to do basically is let's just find the standard deviation for each of these things and just see which one's the biggest, because that would be the best standardized score. So once we do that, we find the Z-score for the first one at 0. We find the Z-score for the next one at 0.333, like it just goes on forever. Here we did this, it will be 0.666, just goes on forever. And then the last one is 0.75. So simply, in which one did you do the best? What's the thing with the higher Z-score? So, done. And then lastly, question 25, finish off this video. We have a prism is shown by placing a half cylinder on top of a trapezoidal prism to the nearest cubic centimeter. What is the total volume? So what we want to do here is we want to find the volume of that cylinder, that half cylinder that's on top, and then we want to add it to the volume of that trapezoidal prism that's on the bottom. So we kind of do two things and then add them together at the end. So first of all, let's start with that cylinder. And the way that we're going to find the volume of that cylinder is going to be, well, to find the volume of the cylinder is going to be pi times, well, I'll write this down. So because it's a half cylinder, we're going to be timesing by half. Then we're going to times it by pi, times it by the radius squared, and then times it by the height. By the way that you find the area of any prism, the volume of any prism, is just that base area times height. The reason why we're timesing by half is because it's half a cylinder, and then the area of that base is just that front circle. So if we do this, once we sub in the answer, the values, so half times pi times, now the radius isn't 9, the radius is 4.5, so 4.5 squared times the height, so in this case that's the height, which is 12.5, and when you put this into your calculator, you get like 397.67. Once you've, so now we've got that for the cylinder, and then we've got the trapezoidal prism. So if we're trying to find the trapezoidal prism, again, we'll find the area of this front trapezium. Okay, so the area of a trapezium, if you remember, is half times the height. So in this case, the height is going to be 10 times A plus B, with A and the B at the top and the bottom sides. So in this case, it'll be half times 10 times, and then in brackets, 9 plus 15.5. So that's kind of found the area of that front face, of that front trapezium. But again, we need to times that by 12.5 as well. So once you've gone and done that, put that into your calculator, and you get about 1,531.25. And now that we have those two volumes, we just want to add these two numbers. So this plus this, add those two together. So the total will be about 1,928.857 ... and then so if we were to do a bit of rounding here, we get A, because we're just rounding it to the nearest centimeter cubed. Alright, so anyway, that's all the multiple choice questions done. I realize this video has probably gone for a bit of a while now, but the idea is you want to watch through the questions that you got wrong, and even if you got a question right, still maybe look through it anyway, because you might have guessed and you might have fluked it or something like that. So hopefully this has been useful. Obviously, if you have any more questions, feel free to ask. If there's something that's not so very clear, make sure you ask. The whole point of this video and every other video I do over these next few weeks is for you to kind of take the speed of your own learning. So make sure you keep asking questions. Make sure you work hard over these next 7 weeks, and hopefully we'll get the results that we want. Alright, hopefully this has been helpful.